Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Crypto Market Garden, taking place today in somebody else's kitchen. Hey, do you like gardening and having things from your garden to cook with, but you're lazy and you had to rewatch that goddamn World War II documentary again? Well, I highly recommend cozying up to somebody who has put in the elbow grease, who is on holiday, which is the situation we find ourselves in today. So, with the fruits of the garden not going to spoil, we're going to show you a couple of recipes and talk about cryptocurrency today. Crypto assets. Thank you. So today we have a beautiful harvest of heirloom tomatoes of all different types. We've got green zebras in there. We've got some of the chef favorites, the orange stripy ones. I forget the name, but they're good. So these were ready to rock and roll, and I'm not going to eat all of that myself. I already have enough lycopene in my system as it is. So what we're going to do today is we're going to show you how to do a quick pickling of heirloom tomatoes at the peak of their season, which will give you year-round pleasure because you can break them out at any time to add acidity to a dish, which is just as important as salt. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the markets right now. No heat required here. You can see I have the oven covered with my cutting board, which has these beautiful spring onions, which I've gone through a process that I'll touch on in a little bit. Anyway, so to get started, what we want to do is just basically, we've already washed our tomatoes. So these are just going to be going into a pickling jar like this. After you get about halfway through the tomatoes, I'm going to add some water. Just about 1/3, 1/4 to 1/3 of the way up like that. And then you want to start adding your salt so it starts dissolving. We're going to add a 1/4 cup for this entire 2-quart jar here. You have to use good sea salt. You don't want to get the stuff, I wouldn't recommend Morton's, not to bash any brands, but get some good sea salt here because there are additives to your industrial salt and you don't want that going into your pickling process. Additive might not hurt you over a 24-hour period, but it will certainly hurt you if it soaks into the food that you're eating year-round as you enjoy it. So, the fun part about this simple pickling process is the other stuff in the garden that's really fun. Like we have some sage here, Mexican sage, and we have some rosemary. Yeah, we have some oregano in here, and I've rinsed this off, and this is just going to go right in, like that. You can play around with whatever hard herbs you want. You cannot go wrong. Even some fine herbs are okay. And then typically an allium of some sort. In this case, I'm very excited because my cousin, who's wonderful enough to let me pick through his garden and watch his house while he's in Germany, has planted spring onions. However, since we are into the summertime, these spring onions have gone through a process which the Italians call passamento, or resiotto, which is where they have dried in the soil. So you can see the caramelization inside of the onion. You see that beautiful caramelization? Natural dehydration within the soil creates for this really wonderful, naturally roasted. Again, I'm not using any heat today, so we already have those cut up over here. We're going to keep a couple of the tails on just almost for decoration. We have them sliced open, no good knife skills needed, otherwise I wouldn't have any fingers. And we're just going to throw those in like that. And then we're going to put as many more tomatoes as we can in there. We've also got some cherry heirlooms here. And the ones that are split open are the ones that want to go on top. Because what happens when you do that is a process called carbonic maceration. Now, carbonic maceration, what is that? Well, you've probably heard of the term, it just takes one bad apple to spoil the bunch. That's actually very true. So a lot of times you might be at the grocery store and you'll see a batch of plums and they all look very good, but they're all covered in fruit flies. And the reason why is because the one at the bottom has started to rot. and that rot spreads to the top, attracting fruit flies, which are attracted to fermentation, degradation, and decay. So they're not actually attracted to fruit. You can leave fruit out all day as long as it's ripe, or as long as it's washed and not overripe. So that's when they start to come. Anyway, long story short, carbonic maceration is when the fermentation starts at the top. So like with grapes, it would start at the bottom, and then that fermentation, the product of that fermentation would come to the top, and that's carbonic maceration. It would start to rot the fruit from the top at that point. Why you want to put the split tomatoes on top is to speed it up, because what we're going to do here is we're going to cap this. And when we cap this, then the fermentation is going to start. When the fermentation starts, it will actually push it down into the bottom. And that's where you preserve all that flavor. So that's what you want to do. So yeah, that's pretty much it there. We're just going to top it with as much water as we can fit. Again, remember I've boiled the jar. I'm using good water, great salt, and yeah, we don't want to split them open with our fists or anything. You don't want to jam a spatula in there or anything. That's why you put a couple of split ones at the top. You just kind of get it started, you get it rolling, you know what I'm saying? So this is already a brine right here, right? And that's it. So there you go. And about 3 weeks on the counter, and you're gonna have some of the most delicious acidic tomatoes to season your food with. That's definitely the longest intro I've done for Crypto Market Garden. Now that the censors are not watching, let's talk about what's going on in the markets. Obviously another boring or even terrifying day depending on where you're at. You know, there's a phrase in the restaurant world called "rip the band-aid off of Robin Williams," and what that means is, like, if the narrative is true, if all this chart worshipping wick-off nonsense is true, just rip the band-aid off, let it crash to 20. If you don't have cash reserves, if you're cash poor, if you have open loans, DeFi loans, make sure that you have those paid off before that happens. Otherwise, they will liquidate you without even letting you know that they did it. If you do have loans, stop. Stop. It's fine to take loans on the way up when you have that bull market and there's really like a 10% chance that it's going to go anywhere but up. That's fine, and then pay them off in 30 days. I did it a few times myself, just to have some cash around. But if you're cash poor right now and you're waiting on Ethereum and all this stuff to go up, it will. But it probably will hit 23.5 for Bitcoin and 1100 for Ethereum level before it recovers. I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Last week I was giving that a 10% chance. Now I'm, you know, you can only hold out hope for so long. No, I'm not selling at all. I was prepared for this. I have cash reserves. You should have cash reserves. I know we're here to fight the banks and the traditional markets and all that stuff, but you know, the greed got into this market, and you have to understand that shutting down trading on trading platforms like Binance, shutting down the ability to trade on those platforms without a VPN and lying, basically, has removed some of the market cap from the market. So yeah, I mean, it's not going to get back to 2.5 trillion anytime soon. So these guys that are still holding on to hope of a $130,000 Bitcoin by the middle of August are wrong. So just be ready for that part of the ride. Now, because this cycle was broken in the center where it should have continued until September, late September, you will probably see something just as much an antithesis to entering a bear market. You'll see the bull market restart out of nowhere. So what should you be doing right now? If you have cash reserves, whatever you do not need for 3 months of budgeting, you put that in right now. You stack your grocery bags all the way down and you hodl. And that's it. Shout out to George. His video this morning is just basically the preface of what I'm saying right now. George was somebody that I found on Reddit, through a Redditor, I should say, that you know, I started following when I had $100 for 6 months in Bitcoin, and I was like, how the hell does this stuff work? I got, you know, dumb lucky, guys. I invested my life savings on March 15th, 2020. So I'm not used to this either. But I have learned a lot about it. I've memorized how things move, and you know, I'm just gonna hold out. I haven't stabled anything. I've made some more conservative plays. but I'm still ETH max. Made a little mistake with that the other day trying to get that one back. Yeah, just hang in there. Weather for the worst, prepare for the best, hope for the best, and now you know how to pickle tomatoes. See you at the top.